Step into the Dueling Dimension Gaming Tavern.
Hey guys, Dungeon Saber Duelist here. We are going to do a review on Final Fantasy Birth by Sleep. I'm going to start us off, and Solar is going to jump in when we start talking about Terra, Ventus, and Aqua's stories, as well as the secret episode, the final episode, and the secret mix, which is the video at the end. How all three of these stories are intertwined. I've only played on the Steam version of the game, whereas Solar, I believe, played it when it came out. And we are going to stress how this game set up the entire saga, even though the release order was not the same as the lore order, whereas I'm playing them through lore order, but it's not how it was released, even though it would have made more sense if they would have started here, because it sets up the entire series, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll talk about the story, the gameplay, and all the extras that happen within the game, and then give you our final thoughts on the. All right, so now Solar is with us. We're going to talk about Terra's playthrough. First, we're going to talk about gameplay. In my opinion, he's more strength oriented, and we do a lot more with damage, physical damage, strength, that type of thing. And then I'll pass it over to Solar to talk more on the gameplay, on his fighting style.
Terra's fighting style is very straightforward. You just want to basically level grind him out to max out anything strength related. He's not so great with magic or anything like that, but generally whenever I'm playing with him, whether it be on normal or I'm playing on like hardcore, it's just Terra's straightforward. He gets to the point, and honestly, he's a well-rounded offensive character.
All right, so then Terra was the one character to fall to the dark side, so to speak, just like Darth Vader, Anakin in Star Wars. Yeah, I'm making that comparison. And it's just like main games, other stories. It was a gradual. It wasn't like, ooh, I want to be evil. And then I'll let Solar elaborate on that a little bit.
So with Terra's fall to the dark side, it was just very, like Saber said, was very gradual. It was very well thought out. He had a story. It ended up showing, the weakness that these Keyblade wielders have, that they feel their pride is, put down. They even have a glint of darkness. They can succumb to it if they keep letting their emotions get into it.
Yeah, and the big thing was it wasn't like he was doing it to be evil. He was doing it to protect his friends, and was utterly manipulated by Xehanort. And then there was a couple key bosses in the game. There was Bragg, Ericus, and Xehanort. I forget who Bragg was, though. Oh, Bragg was the guy with the guns. Okay. Bragg was, to me, annoying as a boss. All you had to do is keep deflecting his attacks. Ericus was also easy. Just swing the keyblade a little bit and you beat him. Just avoid his dodging and pushing around. Xehanort, for me, I did not level up enough, so I had to go back, level up some more, and then take him on, because I feel like the skill level from the last boss to him was a big jump, yeah, like his first form was easy, but then after that, it was annoying. And then I'll pass it off to Solar to talk about the rest of the bosses in more depth.
Most of the bosses from like each of the worlds that come up are very different in a way that I'm used to seeing. It's been forever since I've actually had to go back through Birth by Sleep because at the time when it was out, it was only for one specific console and barely anyone got to play it. But going through and going through, I played the game multiple times at this point to notice that every boss has unique battle animation. They have unique battle skills. Some you can't just go in and directly start smacking them. You have to stay back, and really annoying, honestly. But it does give the game a lot of depth for every Heartless you fight. So honestly, I like the bosses they make for this game. Combat style's a bit weird though. I don't. The deflect definitely should be a standard in every game.
All right, so now we're gonna talk about Ventus. His gameplay, I feel, is more fast and speed, and I feel like it's a balance between strength and magic. And I'll let Solar talk more on his combat.
Ventus's combat is very, I'm not gonna say inefficient. He does have good attack. Obviously, the keyblades matter in this game, so whatever keyblade you slap in his hand, he's gonna do a little bit better. But genuinely, the skills vary. It's either you're gonna use Ventus to just start rolling attacks out like Terra, or you can put in a little bit of magic here and there. But generally, Ventus's combat is more balanced than what you'll see out of Terra or Aqua. And on my personal note, it's okay. It's not crazy. I could play as Terra, or I could play. I'd rather play as Terra more, but Ventus is okay.
For me, Ventus was a big change because instead of power, it went with a lot of speed. Um, that was the big change for me. And after like the first world or two, I got into it. But with him, I didn't even do magic except for healing spells. But then moving on into um his story arc, like he had a big bond to Terra. Like I feel like he was closer to Terra than Aqua, or at least tried to be. And then he also has ties to Sora in for later story arcs, but I'll let Solar get into that.
Ventus's story was definitely a bit strange in my opinion. It was built up. Like he cared about his friends. He wanted to make sure his friends weren't alone in their time of need, and they gave him a good background. I don't know. As far as the story as how it plays out, it feels like it's a little too fast paced, and it's not. Doesn't feel like they put more depth to it.
And then key bosses for him was pretty much Vanitas. I found the boss rather simple, at least until you get to like the final form. I think you had to mash buttons or something. I forget. And I don't know. It didn't feel too challenging compared to like Terra's fight with Xehanort. Vanitas seemed pretty easy in comparison, but I'll let Solar expand on that.
Vanitas in comparison is definitely a little bit easier. Fighting some of the key bosses were definitely a lot harder as uh, Ventus. Not so much because the combat, but more what each boss was able to do. It always really depended on what boss you were fighting. That you had to play either defensively, offensively, and you had to get in close and quick. And yeah, bosses are bosses for Ventus fighting style is not okay. They're beatable, but not okay.
All right, so now we move into Aqua's story. So we'll talk about the gameplay first. I think the gameplay was absolutely atrocious. Yes, I know she's all magic based, but she also couldn't even take a hit. With Ventus, with Terra, you were able to take a hit, and when you wanted to power level, even on like the first world, second world, third world, it wasn't a problem. Aqua, I felt like you had to play guerrilla tactics, like kill one or two of them, run out of the area, and repeat until you got to a decent level where she could actually take a hit. But I'll let Solar expand more on her combat style, which was very magic focused.
Aqua's style could have been a lot more refined. I'm not sure who thought it was a good idea to make her purely magic focused. Um, her keyblades were definitely super dependent on what you wanted to do. Obviously, for the starting of the worlds, for power grinding, you obviously want to use the strongest keyblade because those heartless in that world don't play, and you don't get healing for some reason right off the bat, even though she is a magic user, and that makes no sense to me. Um, but her combat style is very ineffective when dealing with groups in total, especially direct one-on-one contact. So honestly, any gameplay doesn't matter. Easy is always the easiest, but if you're gonna go on hard or hardcore, definitely power grind for the first two worlds as much as you can until you can't level up anymore. Her spells are Her spells are dumb. They require a lot more refinement than just using Terra or Ventus. And she just, uh, to me, she was just very poorly designed in her combat, and it was very hard to get by a couple of the mobs when I was playing on hardcore.
So I played one level down in hard. I think it was normal. It wasn't hardcore, but it was normal, I think. Um, which moves us into key bosses, which is the Mass Boy, which I think we find out is Vanitas. And I think we also fought Bragg in the main game as well. For me, the fights weren't terrible, but then again, I power leveled like no tomorrow so that I didn't have trouble because anytime I tried to use magic, at least against Mass Boy, he always interrupted it. I'd get attacked right when I would cast magic, so it made the fight more difficult because you had to swing the keyblade, which means physical damage, which she doesn't have the physical damage. And I'll pass it over to Solar.
Like Saber said, there's no physical damage. It really heavily applies on it really heavily applies on the keyblade you use. And even then, the strength isn't there for her to start rapidly using her keyblade, sorry, to actually start causing damage. You have to time your magic casting exactly. Um, a lot of key bosses that for Aqua that I've realized that if you're gonna cast magic, make sure you stun them first. Whether it be that you dodge, if you block correctly, dodge correctly, whatever the case may be. playing your attacks for magic at least a step ahead so you could at least get it off.
And then as far as her story, I didn't particularly enjoy it. It just felt like she was the big sister, trying to keep an eye on Tara. And that felt like it was the main part of the story, is her just being the big sister and going, don't be bad. Don't fall to the dark side. Don't give in to your hatred. And I'll pass it back over to Solar.
I liked her personality. I liked that she cared for her friends. I liked that she was willing to go out of her way to make sure both of them were safe. And she always did her best trying to find them. But ultimately, at the end, it leads to a lot of difficult problems for her. And it gets worse and worse the more you progress in the story.
All right, so now we're going to talk about the extras, which I did unlock by doing all the stickers, getting all the Xehanort reports, killing so many unversed. I forget the exact number. It was something insane. I don't remember, but with power leveling, it wasn't a problem. I unlocked it by the time I finished Ventus. But anyways, final episode is when Terra Xehanort comes back, and you end up having to fight Terra Xehanort in Radiant Garden, which wasn't bad as Terra because it was basically the same version, but it was a pain as Aqua because she's completely magic based. Trying to interrupt his attacks was pretty much non-existent. It took me a couple deaths, I believe, to actually beat that boss, which was quite annoying. And I'll pass it over to Solar.
The final fight between Aqua, Terrace, and Xehanort was equally the most time-consuming, rage-inducing session I have ever hit. And forget about playing it on hardcore. You're not. You might be able to get it, but it's gonna take a painstaking amount of time and deaths for you to realize that it is very hard to play as Aqua. And no matter how much you power grind, she's solely relying on so many magical attacks that just trying to basically overpower Terra is kind of was like 50-50. And then Xehanort, forget it. It was even harder with him.
Well, they were one person in that final episode, but it was very difficult. And then the secret episode, I just remember running through. It wasn't that bad. The boss was kind of annoying for what it did. And yeah, it showed foreshadowing, but the Kingdom Hearts 3, however, I don't know. I didn't find it fun, enjoyable. Yeah, it told a little bit of a story, but I don't know. It just seemed kind of mundane to me. And then I'll pass it back over to Solar.
Final story, definitely, for all the work that was put in for that, it definitely could have been a little bit better. As far as how it ends, I'm very upset that it took them years to finally think that, oh, let's put Aqua in the story again. But that final story with Birth by Sleep could have definitely been a lot better, and I wish that they actually put more thought into it.
And then there was the final cutscene, which, it showed some current stuff, some future stuff, some, where the series was going a little bit with Sora. It showed Aqua in the, what was that? The shadow area. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank. But then I'll pass it back to Solar.
think I think how they made Birth by Sleep was a good concept. I just wish they put a little. I just wish they had more time to put in a little bit more effort.
All right, so now we're going to go into final thoughts, closing verdict, that type of thing. And I'm going to let Solar discuss what he thinks the strengths of the game were.
Well, the strengths of the game, it had character development, it had a story, it had the right tactics to go about things. Definitely each character was unique to their own story and their own fighting styles and their own ways they level up. And just overall, I enjoyed it. As much as I have some qualms about it, I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it as well. I also like the fact that each playthrough feels like it's connected to every single world all at the same time. Like Terra goes there, you get part of what happened. Ventus goes there, you get another part of what happened, and then Aqua goes to that same place, and you get the last piece of what happened over the course of the game. And then I'll pass it over to Solar to discuss what he thinks some of the weaknesses of the game are.
The weaknesses are definitely how the skills line up for every character. It was definitely important that every character was kind of mixed into what the grand scheme of their build was. Aqua definitely shouldn't have just been a pure magic user. She should have been also adept in some form of combat. Ventus, I don't like that they put too much speed into him. I think that he does move around a lot considering his smaller figure. And it is okay for that to be a thing. I just wish that they had some more. I wish they had more time to actually finalize how he plays about. Terra. Terra's just a great neutral because even if you don't want to mess around with all the magic, you don't have to. Obviously, the magic in the game has counteracts to whatever boss you're fighting, which is good. But again, Terra's more swing, slash, and bash type of a character.
So
And I think they definitely should have given Terra a bit more focus into the actual hack and slash.
So for me, I like the fact that Terra was strong, but at the same time, I found that if you do Ventus and then Terra, you kind of get annoyed. I did do Terra then Ventus, but then I realized I deleted one of my saves, so I had to go back and do Terra, which made me angry because Ventus was fast and you'd get stuff done quickly and be able to go right through. And Terra was very slow with swinging his weapon. Ventus, I didn't really have qualms about it except for the first few worlds when I was getting used to him being fast and very different combat style. Aqua, I will forever nag on her as far as this game goes because I came into it and thought, hey, I'll be able to go to like the third world and then power level. Now, I had to power level on world 1 because of how bad she was at taking a hit. She couldn't take a hit until like level 10, if I remember right. By level 10 was when I could actually start getting decent levels and that type of thing. So let us know what you guys think of this game in the comments below. Have a good one. Until next time, peace.